You love podcasts, the stories, the laughs, the unexpected turns. But when this episode ends, the silence starts. Not anymore. Audiobooks.com turns that silence into your next great adventure. With over 450,000 titles, from bestsellers to hidden gems, your love for listening just found its new best friend. And because you already know the joy of audio, we're giving you 3 free audiobooks to start your journey. Imagine your favorite podcast, now with unlimited episodes. That's audiobooks.com. Keep the story going. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. Because for podcast lovers like you, the end of an episode is just the beginning. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by makers and fixers of Snap-on. The makers and fixers keep the world moving. They're the backbone of the world, whether they're talking about manufacturing, customizing, restoration, performance, or maintenance. I know a lot of makers and fixers. I'm sure there are a lot of makers and fixers in the audience. I hear from a lot of you guys. I know you're working, you're wrenching, you're doing it, you're working on your cars, you're fixing up. You know me, I'm fixing up my heater. I'm fixing up the pipes in my house that explode in the front lawn. Real makers and fixers not only made your car, they keep it running and help you make it awesome. Theirs is not just a job, it's a calling, and Snap-on wants to hear from you. Share your story. Go to makersandfixers.com/spikescarradio, makersandfixers.com/spikescarradio, and check out the Makers and Fixers Instagram account. I've been there. It's really cool. They're looking for your story, and maybe if they like it, they're going to help you promote your business and promote your making and promote your fixing. Check it out. makersandfixers.com/Spikes Car Radio.
And now, Hangar 56 Media presents Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast Spike Barriston. Now, here's Spike.
There it is, Jackie Wilson, Higher and Higher, a song chosen by my guest today, Mr. Ronny Chieng. Ronny, this is fantastic. We're at the Zuckerman hangar here at Cotner.
Thank you for having me, man. This is beautiful. By the way, Jackie Wilson, Higher, scientifically one of the most uplifting songs.
Really?
Like, they tested it, and this is one of the most kind of like, it makes people really happy.
So if listeners are down right now, let's you can't hear it, but let me let them listen.
Please.
And you know he never showed his face again.
Yeah, it's good. All right, we've lifted them up, and now we're going to entertain you for, 40 or so minutes. Ronny, this is great. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for letting me into this beautiful hangar. No one can see what we're talking about, but this place is straight out of like, every classy car magazine you've ever seen is basically here.
This is the Zuckerman spot, and it contains, I never know what I'm going to find when I come down here. We record in a variety of places, sometimes Santa Monica, sometimes here, sometimes Beverly Hills. We usually go to Zuckerman, the co-host, because he's lazy, and, we don't really pay him, but he's like, I'll do the show if you come to me. And I said, that's a fair deal.
Right.
And it's nice here. It's beautiful.
This is beautiful. It's quiet. It's private. It's my first time here, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know where I was heading to. I thought we might be going to one of your apartments. I thought we might be meeting at a cafe because I just had an address. And I show up and I'm like, is this a spot? It looks like an abandoned place in LA. And then lo and behold, as is the LA thing. All the secret stuff is behind closed doors.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
And there was a little moment, I had a little moment of fear. I came here a few minutes earlier and left the gate open for you. And there was a fella, nice gentleman, just dancing in the window by himself here in the Sunday morning and talking to himself. So I was when I heard the noise, I was happy to see it was you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And not someone who was going to come dance with me. Well, anyways, you're in that subset of person that is perfect for Spike's Car Radio. In that, you are in entertainment, you're in comedy, and you like cars and you like watches.
Right. Well, it's a very small subset of people, so I'm glad to be part of it, I guess. I don't want to get gross and talk about money as well, but I'm used to doing podcasts in people's studio apartments in New York. So I'm still coming from that world. So it's interesting to come into a place where comics are able to have nice things. But I will say that it is not just about money. When I see comics who do have kind of made it a little bit, it's also about good taste, There's having money and then there's having good taste. I always feel like that's always the difference for me. It's like between someone who's gross and someone who's like, oh, this guy did something he was passionate about, managed to find success in it, and then he still maintains his good taste in what he does.
Yeah. Well, we all work hard. I mean, I want to talk about where you came from because I think that, when the people I know, at least my little group, we were all, we didn't grow up with money.
Yes.
We saw these things that we dreamed about, and we worked hard to kind of make the money to get them.
Yes.
And then you achieve it. It becomes this little goal. And, while I think all of us acknowledge it's kind of stupid, it's dumb crap, but it makes us personally happy. Yeah. It delivers, relaxation and fun, and it keeps your mind focused on dumb stuff. I know, it's been said before in my little group, our wives love that we're focused on this stuff instead of possibly other stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No. And I mean, I say that without judging because, again, like I said, it's this weird dichotomy of it's not about the money. You need money to kind of collect these things and be able to enjoy them. But when you ultimately do enjoy it, it's not about kind of showing off or whatever. It's more like, hey, this is cool. This is really cool. I remember you said in your Petrolicious episode, you said like your measure for a car is whether when you drive it, do you have a grin on your face?
Right.
And the grin on your face is the
That's
key.
it.
Isn't do people think I'm cool, or is this an expensive car? It's the grin on your face. And so in a way, all this money stuff is the surface level, but underneath is the pursuit of joy, which
it can be simple.
Yeah.
It can be on a skateboard, by the way.
Exactly.
It's currently being delivered by my Sondor's electric bicycle.
All right.
But I go up into the hills, and in a minute, I'm just in that state of bliss and happy and relaxed.
Yes, and again, sorry, the only reason I bring this up, this topic of money, is because I am coming from a place where, again, all my friends are these 30-year-old road comics who we were just, we had to reject money completely to pursue this. So that's why.
Well, of course.
Right.
The more unhappy you are, the funnier you are. You are.
Yeah.
And it's your drive. It's a primary drive. It still is for me.
Sure.
You got to keep delivering. You got to keep hustling.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I watched that Adam Sandler movie, that basketball movie last night on Netflix.
Yeah.
Hustle.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a hustle.
Yeah.
The hustle.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Well, let's talk about you. Where,
Please.
as I go back, I want to introduce the audience to you. You're born in Malaysia, but you also lived in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So my family were Chinese Malaysian, third generation Chinese Malaysian. So growing up, we just said we're Malaysian. We didn't think ourselves as my father went to college very late in life. Actually, my mom and my dad, they had 2 kids, and then they decided to go to college in America.
Wow.
So they went to college in their late 30s with 2 kids and no financial help.
And how old were you?
When I went to New Hampshire, I was 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Now, I know New Hampshire because I'm from New England.
Sure, yeah.
How were you greeted in New Hampshire? Were people nice to you?
Man, it was the best.
Wow.
It was the best. It was 3, and it was so good that it set off this, because I left when I was 7, and it set off this 20-year quest to go back to America. That's how good it was for me. It was, and I acknowledge it was obviously, a very naive time for me. I was in elementary school, kindergarten, elementary. There's no racism when you're that young. I left before racism kicked in. I left when I was 7. That's too
It was
young.
there. You just didn't notice it.
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
But here's what surprises me about that. I don't remember much about my life at 3 years old. What was it about New Hampshire at 3 that really drew you?
I don't know. It was
happiness.
I remember it was like, oh, it's snowing. Snow is a lot of fun. I remember elementary school was like fun. I don't know. I like school.
Yeah.
I remember like I would hang out with my sister. She'd read me Babysitter's Club books, and so I read all the Babysitter's Club books. That was my first way. That's how I started reading, was Babysitter's Club books. And then I remember we only went to like 5 places. My entire life was 5 places. It was the library, school, the back room, restaurant in New Hampshire, which is still there. When I went back, I actually managed to have a meal there again.
And that's cheeseburgers, right? French fries.
No, it was actually steak. They had steak. Yeah, they had steak there. And then the Shell gas station that my parents worked at, and then home. And it was like, and maybe the lake. There was like a lake. And the park, so 7 places. And my life was just 7 places, and it seemed like the world was like huge. And so I always had this very romantic notion of not just New Hampshire, but of America. I always had this very, I remember watching Seinfeld on TV, our whole family will watch it, and then when I went back to Singapore, so after my parents graduated, they got their undergrad and then they got their masters, and it took them...
What were they studying?
They studied I think my dad did a undergrad in business, and his master's was in economics, and then my mom did, I think, science undergrad, and then she did an MBA.
So they're working at the Shell station, they're going to college, and they're raising these kids.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. I mean, at that time, we didn't think much of it, but then now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, that was crazy.
No babysitters? No nannies?
No. They started from scratch. They had this, they were doing their own, my dad was doing his own business in Malaysia, and I guess it went under. Not through anyone's fault or anything, just, the way businesses go under. And so his thing was he was going to go get educated and restart his life. And back in the late 80s, it was still a very sought after thing to be educated overseas.
Right.
That when it was still worth more than it is now. Not that it's not worth anything now, but like back then it was a lot harder to do it, obviously.
Yeah,
right. And so getting an American degree was like something where when you go back to Malaysia, that's like an arbitrage. It's like you get so much social capital from it. And so that's what my parents did. So they just worked at McDonald's, they worked at the gas station, they supported 2 kids, they put themselves through college. Granted, it was at that time it was a community college called New Hampshire College, I guess. It has since merged into University of Southern New Hampshire, and I did a gig there when I came back to America, which was really cool.
Did you talk about that?
I did. I just at the end of the set, I didn't make it the whole set, but at the end, I just said, "Hey man, this is trippy for me because my parents went to college here. It's the whole reason I had this dream in my head to come to America, and." And New Hampshire was always really cool to me, so thanks a lot. And the students were like,
they went crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So you're in Singapore then in your teenage years.
Yeah.
Right?
So what happened was that my parents graduated, and so they did the thing where they were good immigrants because they left. So most people would have stayed on, right?
Right.
Like my parents were like, nah, we gotta go. And at that time, I didn't understand it. At the time when they left, they actually didn't tell me they were leaving for good. They said, hey, we're going to Singapore to visit Singapore. I remember I distinctly asked my mom, like, hey, we're coming back, right?
Right.
And she was like, yeah, we're coming back. And she knew we weren't coming back.
Right.
And she just didn't want to tell me.
Well, you're 3.
Right. Well, when I left, I was 7.
Oh.
Yeah. And I had so much resentment over it. I was like, why didn't you tell me we were leaving for good?
Yeah.
You lied to me, and now we were in Singapore, and
that's a pretty big adjustment, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much, but I know it's pretty strict there, right?
Yeah, it's super strict. And so imagine New Hampshire to Singapore was like, what? And the schooling system in Singapore is very intense.
Yeah.
It's very rigorous. They don't take kindly to 7-year-old Chinese boys who cannot speak any Chinese. They literally just beat it into you. They beat the Chinese into you.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
they mean they take a ruler and they beat it into you.
So you were hit with rulers.
Yeah.
Where?
In Singapore, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
where? On my
your
body?
yeah.
Oh, man, you want to get into this right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah, they'll hit your hand. You know, they
That must have been terrifying.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible, yeah.
You're in this new country and there's a person hitting you with a ruler.
Yeah.
You laugh, but God, at 7, that's scary.
7, 8, yeah. And, you know, I don't want to put everything on Singapore and my parents. I think at that time, I just want to quickly say, like, I didn't understand why my dad left. And as an adult now coming back to America, I'm like, oh, I get why he left. Because he saw this ceiling in America for himself.
Right.
And he knew that if he went back to Singapore, he wouldn't have that ceiling. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. And I was too young to understand that ceiling that he faced with the racism and the you know, they wouldn't give him a fair shot to be promoted to whatever, you know. But in Singapore, he could become an executive and, you know, and a corporate. They went to the corporate world when they went back to Singapore. So, and I appreciate that more now that I didn't at the time, you know.
Would you do a show at that Singapore elementary school?
I did.
You did?
I did, yeah. I brought these cameras back to the, yeah. I mean,
you did?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You brought cameras back and you did a documentary?
Yeah, so I this is skipping ahead a bit, but I was in Australia for 10 years and I started doing stand-up there, and then there was an Australian show called Home Delivery with Julia Zamero, and she goes back to people's childhood homes. So in my case, these Australians came to Singapore to film, you know, all these schools that I went to in Singapore and talk about Singapore a bit. They met my old teacher.
Did you find that teacher who was hitting
No,
you
not the
with a
teacher who
ruler?
was hitting me. Okay, hang on, Spike. I wasn't like being hit every single day. It was...
I'm mad about this already. I feel angry about it.
I was being hit.
But I know what you're saying. I think we've all seen that scene in school with the angry schoolmaster.
Yeah.
But still, it's less about that, you know, I don't know. It's just frightening.
Yeah.
So you're there
Yeah.
till how old? Like, when does this comedy thing sort of kick in?
Right. So, I'm not just saying this because of you being you, but when I was 4 years old in New Hampshire, we would watch Seinfeld on TV, and when Seinfeld would do the stand-up bits in the interstitials, I told my mom, like, hey, what? And that's the first time I ever saw someone just doing that art form of he's just standing there and he's telling jokes to a crowd into a microphone. Everyone's watching him, and I was like, oh, that's actually a form of self-expression, or at that age, it was like, oh, that's a job. You can do that as a job. And then I told my mom, like, hey, I want to try that sometime. When I was 4, and my mom said, like, oh yeah, you can, yeah, sure. And then I didn't do, surprisingly, she didn't talk me out of it. And then, but I didn't do anything about it for like 20 years.
Well, you're only 4. She's saying yes to everything.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
you can be a garbage man. You can,
well, they
go
were
ahead.
pretty like, you know, go be an engineer when I was 4 years old.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
They were all over that.
They were all over that, yeah. So
Well, that's a pretty good choice. I mean, yeah, why not be an engineer?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you say, I want to do stand-up. It's because Jerry, you see that he's doing this job and he's getting paid for it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I want to try that sometime.
See, that happened to me with Letterman.
Letterman
throwing shit off a building, and I go, wow, he's getting paid for that.
Yeah.
I just got kicked out of my college dorms for that. He's getting paid. I did the same math very quickly.
Right. And but I mean,
so that's 4.
Yeah. But I didn't do anything about it for 20 years. It's not like I pursued it. I didn't think about it seriously. And then when I was 24 years old, so just skipping ahead again, I was in Singapore for 10 years. I went through school there. And when I was 18, I went to Australia for law school. And so I was in law school. I graduated. I did like 2 degrees at the same time. So it took me like 5 years. And then when I graduated at 24, my final year of law school, there was a stand-up comedy competition at my university, University of Melbourne. And I signed up and I just went to go do it. And because in my head, I was like, man, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Right.
It's the best chance for me to do this thing.
Yeah.
And then I won that competition. And then,
But how?
And then that's...
I mean, you say you're going to go do stand-up, right?
Right,
You're
right.
excited, you sign up.
Right.
Did you write an act, or did you just improvise it?
No, I worked for 2 weeks. I was like figuring out jokes. I was like trying to...
And how did you do that? You were writing things down, observational ideas, and were you standing in the mirror? How did you
standing in the
practice it?
mirror, practicing at that time, because obviously I didn't know the rhythms of stand-up, and I didn't know even the industry or how to get started. I just knew I had this gig where I had to tell jokes.
Right.
And
what were you writing about? College life or life in general? Or
I was writing about stuff in general. I was trying to be a bit unexpected. I was trying to be unexpectedly kind of dirty. I was trying to be unexpectedly kind of. There was one theme. I only had 5 minutes, so whatever theme you can come up in 5 minutes. But like I distinctly remember I had this theme, and one of the reasons I started doing stand up, why I even wanted to try doing it at this competition, was one, I thought I could do it, and I just wanted to confirm my suspicions. And two, I would always hear these Asian jokes about Asian people, and I was always like, no one's talking about this part of it being Asian, like this perspective of it. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna, if no one's gonna talk about it, I'm gonna talk about it. And so so one of the themes in the thing was about Asian guys, and how, like, I'm butchering my own joke here, 'cause I can't remember from my own 5 minutes, but it was something about like Asian guys, and how they, like, you always see like a Asian girl with a white guy, but you never see the reverse of it. And and no one was talking about that usually when people talk about that, it's very kind of degrading to everyone involved. And so I wanted to kind of give a different perspective of it. And so that was kind of the start of this point of view of like, I can, not that I want to just talk about Asian stuff, but like I can talk about this experience I'm having that I don't hear anyone else talking about this, so I better say it, because if I don't say it, no one's going to say it.
Right.
And so that was kind of the start of that.
Yeah. Well, you'll be pleased to know Jerry's the one who told me about you.
Oh, yeah. No, that was, I couldn't believe it.
He called up and he said, have you seen this guy? And I'm like, no, let me pull something up. And I pulled up your Netflix stuff, and I went, oh my God.
Oh, thank you.
Is he funny?
Oh,
he goes, and I'm sure he said this to you. You were on set with him, and he was just, he's very critical of stand-ups.
Yes, I am well aware.
He looks at routines in a way that I can't see what he's seeing. But you were one of those guys that really stood out to him. He goes, I can see what this guy's doing here, and it's very impressive. And I started watching, and I really lost it. If you guys haven't seen Ronnie's, just start watching his Netflix stuff. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. Some of your best bits there.
Right.
You're also your Daily Show stuff.
Right.
So I'm like backing into you in a weird way.
Yes,
I started with your Netflix comedy.
Well, thank God you saw the.
And then
see them before that.
And then when we were casting our movie, I said we got to put Ronnie in it. He goes, let's put Ronnie in it. And we talked to your manager Max. We saw him at a party, and I said, look, the way this thing is working, it's everybody's coming on to do little parts here and there, and there's lots of folks. And would Ronnie consider? And he said absolutely, and we had you on.
Oh my God,
we'll talk about that later.
When please, we're skipping ahead a few times.
Our next partner is Athletic Greens. I take AG1 by Athletic Greens literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted increased energy, immune support, and most of all, I don't like taking pills, big pills in the morning. It's hard for me to keep up with the supplement routine that comes with a bunch of different products, but this is the healthiest thing I can do in under a minute. Very quickly, I noticed it helps me with my digestion, my hair. You've seen my hair. My skin feels great. It's just one scoop of powder mixed with water once a day. AG1 has been part of millions of mornings since 2010. AG1 gives you increased energy and mood support, making it easy to live your best life. If you're looking for an easier way to get supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/spike911. That's athleticgreens.com/spike911 and check it out. If you missed that, you can always go to my Instagram account, to our link tree, and there you're going to find all our sponsors. And right at the top of the list, Athletic Greens. Back to the show. You were just in Megan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know where to start with all this stuff. Let's start with Megan, because I watched it. I had a screening at the house with my son knew all about it.
Right.
And It was great. It's a really fun movie, and you play the bad guy, kind of owner of the company that creates the AI Megan.
Yeah. So it's a AI doll movie.
Did you audition for that part?
I didn't. The director called me and we had a conversation, and he liked what I was saying, I guess, and then he trusted me with the role, which just a little Hollywood insider shout out here. Behind the scenes here, that when I audition for stuff, I never get it.
No, that's right.
I only get the offers only. Like if I audition for it, they never trust me. But because I get the offers without them having me test for it, I always feel this really big sense of responsibility to make sure I deliver, to not let them down. So I make sure I, bring it. I make sure I'm collaborative on set, because they didn't get a chance to kind of see, well, they've seen my body of work, but not me in the character.
Right.
So I'm lucky that this director, Gerard Johnstone, trusted me with it. And I was still in a phase where, I thought it was a cool genre to be part of, and I could see the comedy in the script. It wasn't like an out and out, super serious, slasher. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's almost a dark comedy, and they made it even more of a dark comedy as we figured out what the movie was. So they really leaned into the dark comedy aspect. I can't emphasize that enough, that it's actually not as scary as you would expect from like a James Wan doll movie. And so we were filming out in New Zealand, and it was I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, which is like being in jail. And
you got to be murdered.
I got to be murdered. Well, spoiler alert, yeah, I got to be murdered, yeah.
What was that like? I mean, well, first, look, Megan.
Please. Yeah.
On set, what were you dealing with that? Is that CGI? Is that a person? Is that a doll?
They found the sweetest New Zealand girl, Amy Donald, who's a movement prodigy genius. So she can do a standing back flip. Just like standing there, she can just do a flip, and she always has a smile on her face. She's such a positive person. And they had this sweetheart be this horrible, this scary doll. So she was wearing a latex mask the whole time for hours. Never, you know how it is on set.
Yeah,
it's exhausting. People get angry, but she just never lost that kind of energy, that child wonder of being on set and enjoying herself. And so part of our scenes were with her as what's it called, non-CGI effects, practical effects. And then they obviously put in CGI in post, which I didn't get a chance to see because they were still finalizing the actual look. So I was working with an animatronic. They had animatronic puppet. They had the girl with the mask on, and then they had CGI. And so I was acting for all three of those things. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's pretty amazing. And you're also in that iconic moment where she does the dance.
Yeah.
I can't remember the angles of that, but were you standing there watching the dance happen as the doll was chasing you?
Yeah. So
did it terrify you, or were you laughing, or?
I mean,
what kind of actor are you? Are you method? Or
well, I'm an adult, so I was looking at this and I wasn't like, I had to act terrified about it because I knew the girl wasn't gonna kill me. But there was an element of, man, this is creepy enough for me to get into.
The dance, I really wanted more of the dance. I mean, it was amazing to watch.
She's a movement genius, man.
Yeah.
She really is a movement genius. And I mean, I kind of told this story on Kimmel, but like it's funny because day one, that was actually my first scene I shot. And so I'm lining up the shot. They put in the animatronic doll. And so I turn away for 1 second. I look back, and I just and I'm getting into character. So I just yell at the animatronic doll like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And then it turns out the animatronic doll, they switched it with the little girl. So I just yelled at this little girl.
Oh no!
And I had to apologize profusely. I think the AD was messing with me, and I've been apologizing.
Thank you. for creating this hostile workplace moment for her to remember forever.
Yeah, exactly. But she was very sweet, and she didn't take it to heart. And this is the whole movie is actually a good lesson in pursuing something which is cool, because when we made that movie, I thought the script was fully cooked. It's one of those rare things where when you read the script, you're like, yeah, they've gone through many drafts of this. I can't see any part where I need to improv or quote unquote fix it or whatever. This thing is fully cooked. So the script was very impressive, and the director was very impressive, and the cast, Alison Williams is in it, and so I was like, this is going to be a good project. But at the same time, you know, you're a veteran of show business. You know that for things to really pop, it takes more than just a good project, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
So many things have to go right. It has to come at the right time. It has to have a cultural moment. And so, you know, when we made this movie in New Zealand, again, it wasn't for much pay. We just thought it was a cool thing to do in New Zealand. I wanted to be a part of it. I love James Wan. Shout out Malaysia, Australia as well. And I just wanted to do something cool. And then it ended up kind of, you know, going a bit viral on the internet. It ended up finding a following in America, internationally. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
And then they called you up and they said, it did so well.
Yeah.
We'd like to write you a check, right? We know you did this for no money.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
They did.
Well, again, I don't get gross to talk about money, but...
No, but you don't have to, but did they? That's good.
Well, I'll tell you how this is why this was also a good company to work for, this production company, Blumhouse. For me, they've been
Oh,
super
yeah,
cool.
they're great.
Yeah, they're smart, they know what they're doing, and they make good producer decisions, which is rare. As you know, it's hard to find producers who make really sensible decisions. And one of the things they did was they said, hey, we got no money for this, but if it succeeds, we'll
give you a piece.
Yeah, we'll give you a piece.
Oh, that's great.
Which is the very reasonable
And this
deal.
is Jason Blum, right?
Yeah, Blum.
Yeah. He is a car guy as well.
I'm not surprised. The guy is...
I went to Barrett Jackson with him and a mutual friend, and when we came back to the airport, he said, let me show you my ride. And he had this big limousine with an edit suite in it. And this goofball driver dressed like you. He goes, that's my assistant. He turns around like this, looked like he'd just done a couple bong hits. And he goes, I'm just driving around LA going to meetings and editing movies.
Oh, right.
It was really cool. And it was, I can't remember the car, and forgive me, but it was an old, I think it was an old Rolls, an old Bentley. It was so cool.
My God. So not even an Escalade. It was like a...
No. It was an old limo.
Wow.
And it had a couch in it, and then a screen, and a computer, and he could edit, or he could have someone edit.
Makes sense, man.
He's just grinding out these movies.
Yeah.
Well, he's a character.
Yeah, he's a really fun guy. He came dressed as Megan. He came to the premiere dressed as Megan, and so he's a cool guy. Yeah, I made him.
Wow.
And also, I should just let that slide about how I'm dressed, I guess.
Yeah,
because
well, we know why you're dressed this way. By the way, you walked in, and I thought, oh, there's Ronny Chieng, and he looks kind of cool. He's kind of a hipster guy,
right.
But that wasn't the case, right? Something went wrong.
Oh yeah. You
don't have a place here. You don't live here.
I don't live in LA, and so I've been here filming I'm here filming something for Hulu, and I'm here for like 5 months.
Right.
So they put me up at this place, which will go unnamed, and I stay there for 3 weeks, and I get these bed bugs.
Oh God. I'm going to assume it's a nice hotel.
It's a very nice place, which should not have bed bugs.
Really?
And yeah, it's did not expect this. Of all the places,
how do you discover? Because I think we all fear this.
Okay,
we all fear this. When I go into a hotel, I always lift up the mattress and I look for the telltale signs.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
I did not do that.
You did not,
because in all my years of touring the roads in shitty hotels, I have never once gotten bed bugs.
Okay.
So I kind of took it for granted that hotels do not have bed bugs, as someone who literally lives in hotels.
But if you go to bedbug.com and you go to one of those hotel sites, it's unbelievable. Every single hotel has it in it. So
this podcast took a dark turn here, but let me...
we want to know. So
yes.
How long were you there before you discovered this?
I was there for 2 weeks.
Okay, and then?
And then I started getting these bumps.
Oh, God.
At least 15 bumps. And I thought it was, I'm getting an allergic reaction to wardrobe because I'm filming on set. Yes. And I'm like, the only thing that's changed in my life is I'm wearing these clothing from set. So I very politely just tell wardrobe, like, hey, guys, I think something might be here, like... Maybe it's the detergent, and they were like, "Oh, you all changed the detergent."
Right.
And then I go back. Nothing really changes.
Yeah.
I wake up one morning and I'm like, oh, I see it. I see the bug.
God.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, now I gotta. And then it sets
So what
off.
do you do?
Well,
Do you go downstairs?
You tell the hotel. You have to calmly tell the hotel. You also have to calmly take, like, you basically have to take nothing from the hotel. You have to leave everything there and get out because you don't know what has.
What about watches?
Oh yeah, you gotta leave it there.
No,
yeah,
seriously.
You leave it. Leave everything there.
Did you
Hopefully in
leave
the
a
safe.
watch there?
Yeah, I left the whole. No, I left it. I left the hotel, but I didn't like. Yeah, I left everything in there. You
did.
Just go. Just get out.
Go. Why?
Just get out because you don't want to. First of all, you don't want to be in that room and get.
No, I understand the clothing part, but not the watch part.
Oh.
like you got to take your watch, right?
Yes, I put it in a safe, but I was just like.
But because you were planning to go back.
No, at that time, I've never dealt with this, so I didn't know what the procedure was. I had to go to work. So I was filming on set.
So you left everything.
Yeah, I just left everything.
You go buy these clothes that you're wearing now.
No. This was. So this is. I have to. The only thing that now it feels weird because I came in. I told Spike like
you're
the only
wearing
reason,
short green pants with penguins on it.
Yeah, I told Spike the only reason I'm dressed like this is because of bed bugs, but that's not entirely true. This is actually how I usually.
Yeah,
dress.
I know it looks good.
But I am wearing flip flops because I had to throw in my shoes.
But again, it's LA, and that's fine. And you're also wearing a very special watch, which I think.
Please.
I recognize as a Bruce Lee Seiko.
Yes, sir.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, Bruce Lee Seiko.
What's the reference number of that watch?
Oh man, now you're 691.
1609 or 6903?
691. Oh man, yeah.
That is a beautiful watch.
Thank you.
It's on a NATO.
Thank you.
With a black and gray.
Yeah, James Bond NATO.
Look at how new. Is that a new old stock watch?
Very, very comfortable. The NATO straps. I found these single layer NATO straps.
Wow.
So it's not too bulky. In a pandemic, perfect. You can wash your hands all the time. You can fly in this. It doesn't hurt.
There's something crawling on it, though. Here, take it.
Yeah,
that is a gorgeous watch.
Thank you.
Now, if the listeners of this show know, I've not really been a Seiko fan, but
Right.
I think I might search for that watch.
Yeah.
When was that watch made?
This is 1970.
1970,
At the time,
that's
it
why.
was competing with the Submariner. So it's the same price as a Submariner
Really?
at the time.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at it, you can understand why. Because it actually has a chronograph and it has date. So, whatever. These days, like, what does that mean? iPhones, right? But if you think back then, to have a timing stopwatch timer and date and tell the time and be automatic and be waterproof like that, in the 70s, that must have been like, oh my God, it's the iPhone,
Right.
20, whatever it is. So it was competing with the Rolex. And I guess, the legend is that Bruce Lee wore one of these things with the metal, very quirky metal bracelet that has like holes in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like almost like
I know that
like
bracelet,
bubble
right.
wrap.
Yeah.
Bracelet. And then no one can confirm this because no one has ever confirmed it. He never confirmed it. But what happens is that on the Bruce Lee official Instagram account run by Shannon Lee, his daughter, they will post photos of Bruce Lee from the Bruce Lee archives. And every year, one photo will be posted where Bruce Lee's wearing a Seiko watch. And then this sub-community of watch people go into this crazy frenzy of like, it's like CSI, whatever, because they're zooming in. They're trying to figure out what it is. And so this guy who I'll introduce you to, DC Vintage Watches on Instagram, he did a lot of research on the year of the photo. And, he's looking at what's happening in the background of the photo to kind of deduce the year of it. And he figured out that this is most likely the model of Bruce Lee, the model of Seiko that he was wearing. And by the way, there's a few variants of this, so it wasn't that. It's not that easy. Yeah,
it's hard.
This
6139.
6139
is the reference number, and just when you pull that up, the Seiko 6139, you see a gold dial, a blue dial, and then that watch that you're wearing, and that there's the strap you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's mine. That's actually mine. I think. I think that photo is of my hand. Yeah.
Well, that watch is on eBay right now.
Okay, that's not my hand. But
and it's being advertised by a hotel, it says. It doesn't say West Hollywood Hotel, because the guy left in safe.
Right. Well, the other thing about this model of Seiko,
this is only $600.
Yeah, man. Well, I would be careful on eBay. I'd be careful on eBay with this watch in particular. This watch is a bit.
Why?
Lots of Fakos. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Yeah. Be careful with this one.
I'm gonna add it to my watch
very,
list.
Very easy to fake, unfortunately, or at least Frankenstein.
Does that happen to you often? You have a watch collection. Have you ever? I had it recently happen with a vintage Hoyer that I had bought on eBay a long time ago. It was a dive watch, orange dial, Tag Heuer.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember.
Tag Heuer, not Heuer. Tag Heuer.
No, it was actually pre-Tag Heuer.
Oh,
right?
okay. So it would be a.
It's just a Heuer.
Oh, it's a Heuer. Yeah. Right.
Before Tag took over.
Yeah.
But I wasn't wearing it.
Yeah.
Went to sell it. Turned out to be fake.
Oh,
you
damn.
know what? It was actually bought by from a dealer here in LA.
Right.
Yeah, who I then talked to.
Right.
He said, I remember years ago I had been looking for this, and he said, I've got a new old stock one. And it turned out,
damn.
It was new. It wasn't old stock. It was new from yesterday that he made.
Have you done business with him before?
That was the last deal I did with him.
Of course.
So that was one of those things like 10 years later, you go, hey, you sold me a fraudulent watch.
Oh.
And he said, yeah, that happens. But the sum total of the parts, I put it out to the Heuer community on the dash.
Yeah.
And there was a guy there who said, look, the sum total of the parts are worth more than what you paid.
Wow.
Because I originally paid $1,000 for it or something.
That's still not.
So they were like, we'll give you, I still got out of it clean.
Sure.
I still got out of it clean.
Sure.
But, I think I'm like a lot of guys, you worry when it comes time to sell a watch, especially an old one, right?
Sure.
And you go, hey, let's send this to Ben Clymer at Hodinkee.
Yeah,
you worry about that phone call 5 days later. Well, I've got some bad news for you.
Yeah, Ben is a bit like sometimes the harbinger of some bad news. But I am not as hardcore as you in terms of buying that many, so I guess
But you've done a Talking Watches episode on Hodinkee.
I did.
You're hardcore deep into all of this stuff.
No,
don't minimize, please.
No. I'm just a beginner. I couldn't even tell you a reference model of this.
No, nobody cares.
Right.
Yeah, but you have that thing. You have that obsession with them, like we all do. But this stupid stuff.
Yeah, this stupid stuff.
Why? What the hell is it? What is going on with us that we're attracted to this dumb stuff? Like you're a younger guy than I am.
Yes.
You don't need a watch to tell time.
Speaking for myself.
What was it? What did you see early on that made you go, I want to pursue a watch collection?
I think it was just the aesthetics. For me, it was the idea of these things combine substance and form so well. And when we look at them, it's aesthetically pleasing, and yet they're highly functional.
Right.
And so for me, it was like how that combination of style and substance is what good stand-up comedy should be. So I guess I saw a lot of parallels to my profession in it. I mean, not just stand-up comedy, but show business and entertainment. I mean, when you're doing stand-up comedy or entertainment, I think you don't want to be fluff. You don't want to just be useless fluff kind of content that comes and goes. You want to be something that's classic, that stands the test of time. So in these items, I saw that. I guess I saw that, and I aspired to make something that would be as classic and that combines as much style and substance as these things that you're buying, And I don't know, just something cool about it. And maybe it goes back to also, I didn't have cool stuff growing up. I came from didn't have much money growing up, and so you see all these things, and you're like, oh, okay, I wonder what's the big deal about it.
See, I think that's a big driver for a lot of this stuff.
Sure, yeah,
yeah, because I think if you grow up with them, you're not interested in them.
Yeah,
but when they're unattainable,
yeah.
But then there's the design aspect. Like I look at that watch. It's a watch I didn't really know about. I've kind of see it, but I see the 70s design in it, and I get lost. I mean, early 70s design makes me crazy. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I love it architecturally. I love everything about it. I love it in my cars as well.
Oh, also not to mention the other thing that attracts me to all this stuff is the heritage.
Yeah.
Right? The heritage and the stories behind it.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. This watch has a connection to Bruce Lee. I mean, I don't need to tell you why I would feel, really wanting to have a little bit of that on my wrist every day.
He's your Steve McQueen.
yeah. He's a cool guy. I mean, the older I get, the more I'm impressed by what he did.
Right.
So lots of reasons to get into this stuff. I personally am very lucky to even be able to dabble a little bit in it. You know, I also, that's why I feel like it's very interesting. The universe is so weird that I managed to meet you and Jerry at this time, because I'm only just kind of got started into this, you know, car and watch thing. My wife calls it my midlife crisis. And so during the pandemic, and then I happened to meet the two guys who literally do comedy, and
there's more of us
at the highest levels. They buy watches at the highest levels, and they buy Porsches at the highest level.
So Jerry does. I don't. Jerry does.
Well, again, now you're selling yourself.
But there's lots. There's Leno.
Right.
There's all sorts of secret guys like David Spade.
Secret
There's
guys.
Tom Segura's kind of showing his colors a little bit.
Right.
Look, because it's not the funniest thing, right? Sure. And your audience doesn't really want to think that about you. They like you to be kind of normal. So you're always trying to measure that. But
yeah.
But you have to live your life.
Right.
You have to do the things that you enjoy. Yeah. And no,
there's
hang
also,
out with it. We're gonna ruin your bank account. Does your wife stay with you when you're out here? Or is she
does. She does.
So she's dealing with these bed bugs now.
Unfortunately, she came the night I discovered the bed bugs.
Oh Jesus!
So she stayed the night, and I woke up and I was like, "Hey, we gotta get the fuck out of here right now." And just for everyone listening at home, I know the moment you mention bed bugs, people can feel it on them. Let me just put you at ease right now. If you get bitten by bed bugs, you'll know that you have bed bugs. Yeah, play the song as well.
Jackie Wilson.
Let me play this song, and let me reassure everyone listening right now that if you have bed bugs, you will know it, because the bites are like very obvious, and they don't go away, and they're hard. They're hard and firm.
God. All right. So let's talk about your new car. There's so much more we could get into. The Daily Show. I would talk about all.
We totally skipped Australia, but that's fine.
We skipped Australia. Your career is exploding right now, and that's the nice thing. So I get the feeling you're going to be back, or you'll be saying, you know what, I don't have time for a podcast, Spike.
Always have time for Spike.
But, you got a car.
Yes.
And that's really the driver of you coming on right now. You've got a brand new car.
It was to hang out with you, but yes, got a brand new car. It's actually...
Tell us what it is.
The first car I've ever bought in my entire life.
This is it.
Ever car, ever. Never owned a car in my life, because I grew up in Singapore, where, if you know Singapore, the cars are like 100 grand for, like, you know, a Camry. And I live in New York. So again, two cities where you probably shouldn't own a car.
Right.
Great public transport in both cities, by the way. And so, first ever car, it's a 996. I'm just going to say it, Tiptronic, because I'm a poser.
There's nothing wrong with that.
2002.
But you wanted a 911, a Porsche 911.
Yeah.
And you settled on a 996.
Yes.
And there it is.
Yes.
And is that ocean blue metallic? What is which blue is this?
They didn't even tell. They just called it blue. They just called it.
I can't tell. I'll look.
Yeah.
I think I see a little bit of color.
Factory colors though, and then inside is a caramel brown leather, which I really like. It's vintage modern.
Why did you choose the 996? And a lot of people love this car. There are a lot of 996 owners out there, and there are a lot of folks asking us to talk about 996s. Yeah. Here we go for you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I went down the rabbit hole of 911s, just like almost like Speedmaster watches. That's like, you could, go forever. 911s, there's so many variants. Wanted something that number one, my wife was like, if you're going to do this, you better have airbags. So that eliminated...
Your wife said that?
Yeah. She said, you're going to have airbags. I don't care.
That was the only thing she said?
She said airbags, yeah. She said
airbags.
Yeah. So that rules out entire, decades.
Yes, it does. Right. It also rules out you're not going to do this.
Yeah.
She's saying she's giving you permission.
Yes,
this is fantastic.
Exactly. I was like, yes, anything. Airbags.
You're going to need headlights. That's all I ask.
Yeah. She said airbags, and then she said automatic. She wanted it to be automatic.
Why?
So that she could drive it if she needed to.
Oh, cool.
If she needed to. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I also would prefer automatic because I wanted like a daily beater, something I could actually drive every day and feel happy in. And looking at all the Porsches, there was this distinct like air-cooled, water-cooled kind of, I don't know, snobbish mark of delineation, I guess.
Yep.
And I just went like, you know what? I think this water cool thing is probably better for me as someone who's not a car guy, who doesn't know what he's doing. It just seems like there's more going for it in terms of maintenance. It seems a bit easier to, less easy to break, let me put it that way. And then the 996, the other thing that attracted me was that it was designed by a guy from Hong Kong. And just like the Seiko is from Asia, and I think the Seiko is a little underrated because in Asia we've all been colonized to think that, you know, Rolex is the best and Seiko is whatever. In the same way, I feel like having a Asian designer, I think he was a bit underrated probably at the time. And he made these headlights, the fried egg headlights that were very controversial that at the time everyone hated. And I was like, oh, you know what? Everyone hated this?
I didn't.
That makes me love it.
Yeah.
That makes me love even more. So, so that was a huge like, oh yeah, I love that this guy from Hong Kong designed this car that people hated the headlights at the time. And now it's kind of withstood the test of time. I think the design has kind of, in my opinion, I think it's stood up as a classic design. And I got it. And I had no idea. I've never driven one before I got it. And shout out Drew Koblitz and the mainline Porsche Drew was the one who told me that a 996 was available. He went to go test drive it for me. I never even saw the car before I bought it. So he did I trusted him to do all the, you know, car guy maintenance, make sure I wasn't buying a husk of a car. It could have come with, you know, whatever, Frankenstein parts.
There are a couple engine issues that are hand grenades in your engine.
IMS bearings, which I watched enough Petrolicious over the pandemic.
That's right. People get really afraid of that. How do you prevent? I don't know. As I understand it, there's a pin pulled and it might explode at some point. Enjoy your car. Mine went through a couple of engines when I had one, and I didn't care. I mean, I had a new one. I had a GT3 996 that I loved. Right. And then the engine grenaded, and they said, we're going to put another one in. And I was depressed, and they were like, why? You had 10,000 miles on the car. You're getting a new engine. I went, oh, that's a good way of thinking about it. And you know, it was totally fine. Yeah. Totally fine. And so why this one? How many miles are on it?
390K. So is that a lot? I don't know.
Wait. 390,000 or 39,000?
390,000, yeah. I don't know why I said it like that, but I was trying to think of
390,000 miles.
Yeah. Is that bad?
Is that true?
Yeah.
That can't be true. So it's turned over?
Well,
I think 39,000.
Oh, this is how I'm exposing myself as not a car guy, but this
no.
I think if
it has close to 400,000 miles on it.
Yeah. I think so. It's a steal, man, when I got it. It was a steal. It was an absolute steal.
So this car has been... all right. I feel like we got to go look at it right
Let's look at it.
Okay, hold on. Let's just put the mics down.
Okay, Spike got so scared we had to go check it right now and expose me as... This is how much of not a car guy I am. It's 39,000.
That's perfect. That's a perfect set of driver miles. Right. You've got a nice car there. It is beautiful inside of it.
And it's a modern classic in terms of like... It has all the conveniences, all the modern conveniences. It's got aircon. It's got it's got the Porsche classic radio.
Yep.
It's got seat warmers, but yet it still has that vintage silhouette, which it's just interesting to me that they would lose that silhouette of, you know, and it's still small. The center console isn't like. It doesn't have a freaking, you know, IBM computer in the middle of it. Right. So it still feels like a classic car to me. I mean, granted, I'm a young guy, so for me, classic is like this, you know, like start of the millennium.
We talk about on the show the word taproot. Your taproot car is the first car that you get that you don't end up keeping, that you love, but it starts you off on this whole thing. Or it can become the cornerstone of your collection in the beginning of your... This is your taproot car.
Yes, I think so. And
you know what's interesting about just going to look at it and watching you get into it, and what you can't get right now is it's small.
Right.
I remember when I got into mine, I thought this thing is big, and now I look at it and I go, it's tiny, and that's a cool thing. Yeah. And you're right about design. You know, and Porsches are so interesting in that way that, you know, it used to be you'd get a new car 2 or 3 years later, you get rid of it because it starts to look old, right? And then it just keeps aging, and then it ages poorly. Yes. And then suddenly it starts improving again.
Yeah.
And I can never I still don't understand how that happens.
Yes.
That you can look at a car 1 year and 5 years later you go, oh my God, look at that.
Yeah.
What the
Something
hell
about,
is that?
Something. Yeah. What the hell is that? Something about the culture and the times.
Right.
And
And the 996 is right there right now.
Yes.
Long ignored.
Yes.
You look at the prices,
Yes.
they're not high.
Yeah.
And there's what? 1999 to 2005 they made this thing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
a lot of stock.
A lot of future value increase.
Yeah, well, no, you broke it down better than I ever could. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a bit undervalued, like I said, based on my research, and it drives like a dream. It's my first Porsche ever, and man, the handling is great, and it's like what you said. When I drive it to work in LA, I just got a smile on my face. I'm just, the whole time I'm like, yeah, this is really cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole deal.
Yeah, it is really
Driving around this place, making yourself happy because you're in traffic all the time.
Yeah,
You've got bed bugs crawling all over.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. One thing about it is the only flaw in it is, weirdly enough, when you turn on the aircon, just all the foam has disintegrated. So I'm having that foam issue. Just tons of foam coming out of the car all the time, and it's just. So I had to spend like an hour. I was just cleaning foam out of the aircon. I was like, that's a lot of foam coming out.
Were you able to fix it?
I pulled out as much foam as I could, and the foam it wasn't even easy foam. It was the kind of foam where as soon as you touch it disintegrates even more. So it just kept foam.
But is there a solution for that? Like
maybe
is there someone we know who can take care of this?
Man, if there was, maybe I was better with cars. I could pull out the whole aircon thing and just clean out the foam altogether. But I had to use tweezers and
that's something in your system, and I'm sure I'm going to hear about it now that I don't know what it is. But that's something that can be fixed.
Sure.
Who services this car for you?
I just got it, so I guess I bought it from a dealer in Pennsylvania.
Who's the guy who looked at it for you?
Drew Koblitz. He was also on Petrolicious. He was driving his Singer. I can't pronounce it. Quay San something. He called it I can't remember what it was. Some Latin phrase. But he was a cool guy. Cool. He was very cool because I've never actually met him. I only know him from Instagram because we followed each other on Instagram.
Is he the guy with cool cars and cool watches all the time?
Yeah.
That guy, Koblitz.
Koblitz, yes.
That's his Instagram handle, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. What is he? He's got great stuff.
He's got cool stuff. I don't know him.
You've talked to him?
I've never met him in person, but we talked online.
But he found you a car.
Yeah, and he was so nice. He said, like, hey, if you ever want to talk cars, let me know. And I said,
where's he getting all his money?
Dude, I didn't even ask questions.
You're just talking to strangers on Instagram and buying cars from them.
But that's the beauty of any community, right? Is that when you do something, when you have the same interest, you can just talk about it immediately. So we're just talking about Porsches. I didn't know anything about it. So I just said, hey, if you happen to see a 996, Tiptronic, please let me know. I'm a serious buyer. I'm moving to LA for 5 months. I need a car to get around. And he found it.
And was the car here?
No, it's in Pennsylvania.
It was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so he shipped it out. Wow. The dealership was great. The main line, very communicative, and they, on point. So it was a great buying experience, and it's been a great driving experience. And yeah, the little quirks here and there. A Porsche badge fell off, and the foam comes out the aircon. But you know what? It's a 20-year-old car. And that's
these are easy things to fix.
Yeah,
these are easy things.
And
to
I
fix.
think
we need to send this car in to get tightened up.
Oh,
and the 996 community listening, will you guys send me a solution for this foam thing? What needs to be done? Yeah. And I will forward it on to Ronnie.
Yeah, and shout out also to Rob Wang. He's another guy in LA who at Platinum Motorsports. He also was a guy who accepted delivery for me and looked it over when I received it, because I couldn't receive the car at the time. So I guess he's kind of my Porsche guy, even though I haven't actually asked him to do anything to a car yet because it's been running great. But
foam,
yeah.
Foamy, dusty foam issues have to be resolved.
Yes.
And I've had two of them. They were both in Ferraris. Right. I had an old Ferrari Dino.
Oh my God, you had a Dino.
A perfect spec preservation car, right? 6,000 original miles. Yes. The foam in the seat, though, had dried out, and every time you sat down, when you got out of the car, there was dust, yellow dust and dirt, and I would go, but it's original dust and dirt outside the seat. Yeah. But I hate this. I'm a neat freak, and I stayed in this place for 12 years with that car, never fixing it. I regret that. And I dealt with it in a 365 GTC4 I had. The same thing.
Right.
It was an AC thing that time. Right. Then in this old 911 where they had restored it and they were sandblasted, somehow it got into the AC. So every time you turned it on, it would blow foam. And it's like, you can't live with a foam issue. I've lived with it 3 times.
Right.
I don't want you to live with it.
We'll get
much. This resolved.
We'll get this fixed. It's a fine line between patina and just disgusting.
No, man. With bed bugs, you don't need stuff blasting you when you're driving, and your AC is going to be on all the time. Did you also? You said you had some parts or something.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of? What are you doing?
This is a true test of your podcast, I guess, because I don't know. I got them to put in a Porsche Classic radio, and so in the process of that, they had to remove the center air vent, dash air vent, and so they just sent it to me because they're honest people. They just sent me all the parts. Right. But I'm like, I don't need this. I don't have a garage. I don't live in LA. I don't, I can't bring this back to New York. Right. So I brought that. I brought the replacement Porsche 996, I'm pretty sure it's original, center AC dash vent. I just want to give it away to a good home.
Wait.
With trimmings. There's some trimmings, I guess that's what you call it.
Here's what I suggest.
Please.
Okay. Because you are new.
Yes.
I want you to take that stuff. I want you to seal it in a plastic bag. Okay.
What?
And put it in your front boot and leave it there.
Why?
Because that's the original stuff that came with the car.
Yeah, but
You want to keep it. You want to keep that.
Okay, this is
it didn't occur to me because I know we've been texting back and forth. It didn't occur to me until right now.
Yeah.
That's because you changed your car from the way it came from the factory. That's totally fine. But the next buyer of that car may want to put it back that way. And if you have those parts, when I'm guessing they're
I'm never selling this car. I'm never going to sell this car.
I know you're thinking that right now.
Okay.
But there will be a day because you're huge. You're about to be huge.
Wow, that's very cool.
And the money is going to be flying in faster than you can spend it.
I don't know about that.
And you're going to be calling me and I'm going to say, here's what you're going to buy.
I will respect. I'll defer to your judgment on this. This is like when my friends buy like a really dumb watch and I'm always like, why did you buy that? You could have bought this. And a
Breitling.
I hear what you're saying. This is like when, some friend has a watch that dad gave them and they immediately polish it. And they're like, no. And they're like, why? It's
dirty.
Yeah. I know. Okay, I will defer to you on this center AC. I had to Google what the hell that part was, by the way. I didn't even know what it was called.
I'm guessing if I were a guy restoring a 996 and I'm looking for that, I'm going to be paying a lot of money for it. It's always good to keep that stuff. You never know.
Okay, right? Sorry, podcast listeners. I was this close to giving it away, but
look, you gave us a great hour of entertainment today.
Thank you.
Let us find a solution for your dusty AC
and the bed bugs.
The bed bugs.
Yeah.
And let me it's been great, Ronnie.
No, thanks so much for letting me into your collection. I know it's a very private space for you, and
this is Zuckerman's private space.
Okay.
You still haven't seen my space.
I mean your world.
When we're back, when we're out promoting this movie, you got to come back on with me and Jerry.
I'd love to. You guys are legends. It's very kind. Thanks for the encouragement.
Thank you for saying that.
Let's play
some more Jackie Wilson.
Thank you for the advice.
There you go. Leave people on a high note here.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio, brought to you by Hangar 56. Listen to new episodes every Wednesday, and be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.